I'm Catherine. I'm so happy to be here today for our very first meeting of our 5th grade book club. I figured today what we could do is I have a few books here, and what I want to do is tell you a little bit about each of the books, and then hopefully you like a whole bunch of them, and we can decide which one of these we want to read and discuss the next time that we meet. So the first book that I want to tell you about is The Dark Lord, The Early Years, by Jamie Thompson. And I'm actually going to start off by reading a little bit here. Ah! His fall seemed to go on forever. It felt like bits of him were being stripped away, and he was changing into something else as he fell. After a long time, his cries of rage and fear faded, and he sank in a kind of sleep, all sensation lost, falling silently in an immense void of nothingness for what seemed like an eternity. Then, suddenly, crunch! Pain! So much pain! And then it faded away, and he took in a great shuddering gulp of air. He coughed, and spat out a glob of black mucus. He watched as the mucus formed a small puddle of shiny black oil. He lay for a while, just breathing. The ground felt like hard gravel. He could barely move. He couldn't think properly, and he felt weak and listless. The sky above was blue, painfully blue. He hated blue skies and sunlight. Of course he hates blue skies and sunlight. He's the Dark Lord. He's the incarnation of evil. He's the world burner. He's the master of the Iron Tower of Despair. Or he used to be the Dark Lord. Something's happened. Something terrible. Somehow the Dark Lord has found his way to Earth, and he's in the body of a puny human teenager. And everyone insists on calling him Dirk Lloyd. He's the ruler of a horde of minions. And now suddenly they're forcing him to live with a foster family and to go to school? No one believes the Dark Lord, Dirk Lloyd, when he says that he's got to get back to where he's from. He's got to regain his evil powers. So what's a Dark Lord to do? Well, I mean, he certainly needs to try and get back home. And Dirk Lloyd is going to do everything in his power that he can. And he might just be able to get back with the help of his new friends. Did I say friends? I meant minions. With the help of his new minions, he might be able to get back to his proper place. So check out, this is our first one here, The Dark Lord, The Early Years. So our second book that I want to talk about is Surviving the Applewhites by Stephanie S. Tolan. So, 13-year-old Jake Simple is a bad kid. He's got spiky red hair, he's got a ring in his eyebrow, he's got earrings all down his ear, and he likes to dress head to toe in black. Nothing about that screams good kid, right? In fact, Jake has been kicked out of every single middle school in Rhode Island. And his last school, he was accused of burning it down. So no one really knows what to do with Jake. His parents are in jail currently for growing marijuana in their home, and Jake's been through a slew of foster homes. He's 2 seconds away from being sent to juvie. So, as a last resort, they decide to send Jake down to North Carolina to live with his Uncle Harry. So, Uncle Harry lives next door to the Applewhites, a rather eccentric and very artistic family who has actually established their own school that they call the Creative Academy, a school that Jake has just been enrolled into, something that Jake is not happy about. But you know who else is not happy about this? Is Edie Applewhite. It's really hard being the only non-creative person in a family of very artistic people. And now suddenly Edie's got some juvenile delinquent coming to stay with them who's going to mess up all of her carefully constructed curriculum plans. You know what? Jake doesn't know what to make of the Applewhites. There's Aunt Lucille, who's meditating with her guru. There's Cordelia, a dancer who's just finished her flower arranging phase. There's Zedediah, who is the grandfather with a parrot who curses in several different languages. And then there's Hal, the 15-year-old, who no one has actually ever seen because he never comes out of his room because he's too busy doing his art projects. But the Applewhite that is the worst for Jake is Edie. Because even though she's the only normal one of the bunch, she makes it very clear how displeased she is that Jake's there. Jake knows he's a bad kid. Edie knows that Jake is a bad kid. But the rest of the Applewhites, they don't seem to get it. They're too busy working on all of their different creative projects to pay any attention to Jake and Edie. One of those projects is a local play production of The Sound of Music, something that Jake and Edie are going to get sucked into. But as they get sucked into that production, they might learn some things about themselves. Things that maybe those zany Applewhites knew all along. So that's Surviving the Applewhites by Stephanie S. Tolan. So the next one I want to talk about is The Tattooed Potato and Other Clues by Ellen Raskin. Wanted, an art student, to assist a well-known portrait painter. 3 to 5, Monday through Friday, all day Saturday. Good pay. Must be a native New Yorker, and must be neat and well organized, quiet, observant. You can apply to Garçon at 12 Cobble Lane. Dickory Dock, yeah, that's her name. Her brother's name is Donald Dock. We can assume that her parents love them, but Dickory really wants this assistant position. She has just been accepted into art school and she needs to figure out a way to support herself. She can be quiet, she can be observant, and she's definitely a native New Yorker since she lives in a tenement with her brother and his sister, and her sister-in-law. But Dickory didn't realize that when she signed on to be the assistant of the well-known portrait painter Garçon, she was also assigning on to be the assistant of Detective Garçon. Garçon helps Police Inspector Noserag and Sergeant Codd solve several of their cases. And as the mysteries begin to pile up, Dickory realizes that not everybody who lives at 12 Cobble Lane is who they seem to be. Dickory can use her powers of observation to see through any of Garçon's many disguises, but it's going to take all of her talents to put all of the clues together and solve the biggest mystery of them all, a mystery that actually might even involve her new employer, Garçon. So that's The Tattooed Potato and Other Clues by Ellen Raskin. So next I want to talk about Gregor the Overlander by Suzanne Collins. It's been 2 years, 7 months, and 13 days since Gregor's dad disappeared. If his dad hadn't disappeared, Gregor would be at camp right now instead of watching his little sister Boots. If his dad hadn't disappeared, Gregor wouldn't be doing laundry on a hot summer's day with Boots in tow. If his dad hadn't disappeared, Gregor definitely wouldn't have taken his eye off of his sister for 2 seconds, only to find her crawling through an old air duct, and he definitely wouldn't have had to have gone in after her, and he certainly now wouldn't be falling down some gigantic hole to the Underland. But Gregor's dad did disappear, and now Gregor and Boots find themselves in some underground world called the Underland, a place that was created hundreds of years ago by the Underlanders, a group of pale-skinned, purple-eyed humans. And they're not the only ones who are down there. The Underlanders have made allies with huge bats and giant cockroaches. And it's actually some of these 4-foot-tall cockroaches that find Gregor and Boots. And they bring them to the princess of the Underland, an arrogant girl named Luxa, who welcomes Gregor and Boots as her, guests. But she treats them more like prisoners. Something that doesn't sit too well with Gregor. So at the first opportunity that he has, he takes Boots and they get out of there. But they find out that the Underlanders are not the only creatures that are down there. There are also giant 6-foot-tall rats. And those rats are not anybody's allies. In fact, they are the mortal enemies of the Underlanders. Fortunately, before the rats can eat Gregor and Boots, they're rescued by the Underlanders. Unfortunately, the only reason that the Underlanders rescue them is they've decided Gregor is part of one of their old prophecies known as the Prophecy of Grey. Beware, Underlanders. Time hangs by a thread. The hunters are hunted. White water runs red. The gnawers will strike to extinguish the rest. The hope of the hopeless resides in a quest. An overland warrior, a son of the sun, may bring us back light. He may bring us back none. But gather your neighbors and follow his call, or rats will most surely devour us all. The prophecy continues, but Gregor has no idea what it means, and he certainly doesn't think that he has anything to do with it. But as it turns out, Gregor's going to have to stick around for a while, because the Underlanders just told him that his dad, who disappeared all those years ago, is being held prisoner by the rats. So if Gregor wants him back, he's going to have to go get him himself. So that is Gregor the Overlander by Suzanne Collins. And the last book that I want to talk about today is Who Could That Be at This Hour by Lemony Snicket. There was a town, and there was a girl, and there was a theft. I was living in the town, and I was hired to investigate the theft. And I thought the girl had nothing to do with it. I was almost 13, and I was all wrong. Lemony Snicket has just started his apprenticeship. Apprenticeship from what, you might ask? And you'd be asking the wrong question, because the secret organization that's so mysterious that Snicket has just signed on to be a part of wouldn't want you to know anything about them, even if Snicket could answer your question. Snicket's apprenticeship to S. Theodora Markson has taken him to a town by the sea. Except the town's no longer by the sea. You see, Stained by the Sea used to be a famous town for its octopus ink, but that's gone now. Actually, all of the residents of Stained by the Sea are gone now too, as they're leaving in droves. The thing that the town does have left, the town has a newspaper with intrepid girl reporter Moxie Mallahan, and it's got a coffee shop, which is frequented by Ellington Faint, and it's got a statue of Abominating Beast. Or does it? What is Abominating Beast? Why does everybody seem to want a statue of it? Who would want to steal it? These are all questions that you could ask. And just like Snicket, you'd be asking the wrong questions. So that's our last book. Who Could That Be at This Hour? It's the first book in the series All the Wrong Questions by Lemony Snicket. So just to recap, we have Dark Lord, The Early Years by Jamie Thompson, Surviving the Applewhites by Stephanie S. Tolan, The Tattooed Potato and Other Clues by Ellen Raskin, Gregor the Overlander, the first book in the Underland Chronicles by Suzanne Collins, and Who Could That Be at This Hour by Lemony Snicket. So hopefully out of those, they sounded really cool. We can figure out which one we want to pick and use for our first discussion. Thanks, guys!